Hello. Those of you who have listened to my previous chats and this one alone can probably tell that I'm a native Aberdonian. And like many of you who are also native Aberdonians and of a certain age, remember the department store on Union Street called Esselman Macintosh's. That was a fairly elite and high-end department store in its heyday. It is now a steakhouse. However, the masonry still stands as a memorial to Esselman Macintoshes, where the name is carved into the granite fascia. Esselman Macintoshes affectionately became known as E&M to most of us, but perhaps what we weren't aware of was that E&M had an exclusive mourning department. That department had 150 staff dedicated to the design, cutting, stitching, fitting, and finishing of mourning attire for entire families at the time. Of course, this was a trend that was very much supported by the late Queen Victoria, who never did come out of mourning for her husband, Prince Albert, and was later, in contrast, reflected in Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, who rather publicly and dramatically denied the mourning period, much to the scorn of society. Now, that scorn probably was driven by the fact that mourning was considered to be, respectfully, a 2-year period. In the first year of that 2 years, women were required to wear black fully, and it was usually attire made in a material called crepe that wasn't particularly flexible or amenable to being attached to softer fabrics to give an outfit a bit more of a gentle appearance. And it also reduced any sense of ostentation, I suspect. So velvets and silks were well out of the palette for that first year. In the second year, or the second 9 months, black was still de rigueur, but the crepe was used more as a trimming. So again, it limited what that could be attached to. So there was still an element of discomfort and tight bodice, if you like. Finally, in the 3 months preceding the end of mourning, it was a black dress and probably of a fabric that was slightly more flexible and could be described more as day wear. The whole intention was to create a fairly sombre and severe impression that was reflective of probably a joyous soul. In years that have passed, we have seen a relaxing of some of this, although black is still considered to be very much a suitable colour to wear at funerals, and males will still don that one black tie on that occasion. However, we have seen funerals where people have taken utter delight in dressing colourfully and in colours that reflect the personality of the deceased, or the colour that perhaps that person was strongly associated with, everybody wearing one item of clothing of that colour, or a dress code may be something that's requested and everybody attending does something to acknowledge that dress code. However, the mourning rules did serve further purpose in society, in things like flags at half-mast, curtains being closed, black clothing, clocks being stopped, were also there as a means of a reminder or a message to the wider society that there was a loss, and that probably afforded the bereaved a certain amount of compassion in terms of their loss and the grief that they were experiencing. That grief was their internal feelings. Those were the things that were inside and rarely expressed, in fact, encouraged not to be. but the external show of the black clothing and the 2 years in mourning was a way of messaging to the outside world that that was the state of affairs. However, as I said, things have moved on, and particularly with celebrant services, there is a movement towards the celebration of the joy of the life rather than the sadness and the gloom around the death. And as part of a celebrant service, you would be actively encouraged to consider if there were things that you wanted included in the dress code or the service generally that lightened that mood by adding colour. And it certainly is something that is really important for you to think about in terms of the mood and the style that you want from that time, that is, after all, the last time your beloved appears in public, and the scenery around them should be befitting. I hope that you have an opportunity to choose exactly as you would want, but also recognising that some people attending may have different views on what is their choice of external expression of their sadness or indeed their joy. Some people just like wearing black, and that is allowed. So go look in your wardrobe and see what you think is the palette that reflects you and where you might want to be remembered in terms of the colours around you.